Hi, so very recently people have been talking about Raidbots as a way to simulate your character and be able to choose between different sets of gear without going through the hassle of using simulation craft. So what I've done today is I've gone through it myself, I've tried various things out, I've done a more detailed review which also shows you how to use it as well. That's going to be coming out later. For now, we're just going to do a quick review of what it can do and whether it's any good compared to, say, using something else. So in a nutshell, what Raidbots can usefully do for you is it can give you your stat weights. It can compare gear, it can compare relics, and it can compare talents. It can do all of these things using the basic options of simulation craft. So you can choose what sort of fight you want to model it on. You can choose the time of the fight. You can choose how many iterations you can do, how many bosses, the basic things like that, which is great. It's taken directly from simulation craft, so it's also accurate within the confines of what it can do. Stat weights, of course, really useful. If you are just talking about pieces of gear that only have stats on, there's no set bonuses to them, there's no procs, there's no special abilities. All you actually need to know are what are your stat weights for a particular fight, and you're just doing a simple calculation. Add-ons such as pawn are really good for this, and it also provides you with the pawn string to import into that add-on. For comparing gear, this is where it's going to shine for a lot of people. Now, I have produced guides on using simulation craft, and a lot of people look at this with dismay and just keep then asking me, oh, which is better between this and this? Because it's a lot of hassle to use simulation craft until you practice it enough. This is much more user-friendly. When you want to compare pieces of gear, all you need to do is to type in the piece of gear you want to compare it with. You don't need it in your bags. It can be something you're looking ahead at potentially getting. You type the name of it in. You don't have to go onto Wowhead and find a code for it, like with simulation craft sometimes. Type it in, it'll find it's in its database. Type in the item level you want, and then say whether you want it to have a socket or not and what's going to be in that socket, and then if it's a piece of gear that can be enchanted, say what enchant you want on it. And it's as simple as that, and it will run the simulation for you and tell you whether it's a DPS increase and tell you by how much. It is worth noting at this point, it does provide a lot less information than simulation craft. However, for someone who just wants to know which piece of gear is better, this or this, it's a lot easier to learn. Relics are a definite improvement in this. If you were to ask me, am I going to be using this or simulation craft? For a lot of the things, I'm still going to be using simulation craft because I'm okay using it fairly quickly. There's no real advantage in me using Raidbots, but relics, there is an advantage. Even I will use it for relics. Relics are the fiddliest things to compare with on simulation craft. You have to hunt for those codes on Wowhead and you have to put them in the right place. You have to be very careful you don't make a mistake. With this one, it's dead simple. You type the name of the relic you want to compare, you type in the item level, and you just go. And it's that simple. For relics, it's awesome. Now, it's not all beer and skittles. There are a couple of downsides, and they're potentially quite large downsides. You'll need to consider this. One problem it has is with complex sims. If you're going to set up a long fight, a complex type of fight, and you want to compare multiple pieces of gear, and you want to do it for a lot of iterations, and you always want to do it for a lot of iterations, if the simulation is going to take too long, it won't do it. It'll just stop. It gives you so much time that it's willing to do it with, and then it stops. And the reason for this is because Raidbots is done through their website. Simulation Craft is a program you download. So when you're processing something on Simulation Craft, you're using your computer to process it. So it can take as long as you like. It doesn't affect the people who deal with Simulation Craft how long it takes you to do your sim. Raidbots different matter using their servers. So it does limit you to how complex that sim can be. That's a bit of a downside because often you find a situation where you have to reduce the number of iterations. And it will even give you a warning, to be fair to it. It'll give you a warning. If you're only doing like 5,000 iterations, it'll say to you, the results could be a bit sketchy here because you're not actually doing very many iterations. The second thing is there are queues in it if you are not a patron. Now, there is a link on the main website, and of course there's a link to that website in the description below, where you can go to their Patreon page and decide to become a patron. It's not actually very expensive. At the $1 level, they will allow you to use Raidbots with your login. You have to make sure you link your Patreon with your Raidbots login, and it will allow you to look at that website without any ads. Okay, great. At the $3 mark, it allows you to bypass the queue. So the queue is there basically for people who are not $3 patrons. Now, $3 is not very much. $3 a month is not a great deal. So I'm quite happy to support it for that. But for people who can't afford to do that or just don't want to, you are going to be faced with queues, which means if you want to do a quick sim, even if it's just comparing one piece of gear with another, which is the quickest type of sim you can possibly do, join a raid, say, because you want to see if a piece of gear that's just dropped is a big enough upgrade for you. You are not going to be able to do that unless you're a patron, because there's going to be a queue. And I'm going to guess, this is a guess, that during raid time, peak time of a game, there's probably going to be quite a lot of people using it. And as Raidbots becomes more popular, I think it will, because it does offer some really good advantages to a lot of players, that queue is only going to get worse. So you'll get to a situation where it'll be all but impossible to use it during raid times. It'll be only the sort of thing you can use outside of those raid times when there's a lot of people not using the website. In fact, you might have to go on early in the morning or something like that when you just got up. So briefly in summary, what are my main pluses and minuses with this? The two pluses are that it is very user-friendly, and that also it's brilliant for doing relics really quickly. The downsides are that it will not do complex sims because it will only give you so much time to do it and then it stops. And secondly, if you're not a patron, you are likely to hit queues. Overall, I would recommend this for people who maybe have looked at my guides and maybe other guides for Simulation Craft and thought, do you know what, it's too much hassle. If you're that sort of person, Raidbots will actually be really good. It's got a marked improvement on the Ask Mr. Robot simulator, because as user-friendly as that is and as supportive as I was about the concept of that when it was in beta, it wasn't accurate. It had an issue with accuracy. This one doesn't have that because it takes its stuff from SimCraft. And remember, the community's foremost theory crafters are the people who are developing SimCraft. They're the ones who make sure that you can model your character as accurately as anyone who is not a Blizzard developer. So the fact that they're using that is a great thumbs up as well. So it is a good piece of kit. Just be aware that there are a couple of downsides, but if you're okay with that, it's well worth a look. So I hope you found this review useful. Remember, I'm going to be coming out with my much more detailed one, including how I went through it myself, so it could also give you an idea of how to use it. If you found it useful, please subscribe for further content and also share it with other people who may also be interested. And until next time, I'll see you later.